Welcome to another edition of Midweek Moment. My name is Minister Zaneta Dabney, and I am so excited to be your host for this month's special edition. We are now a year, believe it or not, from the premiere of Financial Foundations, a financial literacy workshop that was hosted over 6 sessions where financial professionals, teachers, and experts presented on an array of topics, which included key financial topics such as budget basics, credit care, borrower's burden, mastering your money, estate essentials, and retirement ready. Yes, we covered the entire gambit of financial foundations. Now, a year later, we are here, still navigating COVID-19 and uncertain times, yet wanted to revisit key topics and lessons learned from our keynote speakers. You had the opportunity to meet them in the thick of their work. They were alive and vibrant. They presented the literature and knowledge to all of us, yet we did not get a chance to know them very personally. And so on today, we welcome back one of our keynote speakers that presented on Borrower's Burden last year, Michelle Alexander. She is a financial educator and instructor based in Atlanta, Georgia, where she is the founder and CEO of AJM Financial. AJM's mission is to empower individuals with sound financial advice so that they can become skilled at living comfortably within their means. Alexander quotes often, "Many are not taught how to handle or deal with money in a positive way. I teach people that they have the control to manage their credit, debt, and finances for today, tomorrow, and the future." I bring you today with great joy my good friend and financial instructor, Michelle Alexander. We welcome her to the Midweek Moment virtual platform. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's so good to see you again.
Yes, it's so good to see you. Obviously, we talk a lot offline, but it's always great to see you virtually. And we are so excited that you accepted our invitation to come back and be with us on today.
Yes,
so
thank you.
A few questions, right? So as I mentioned last year, many don't know this, Michelle actually was one of our fill-ins. There was somebody else that was going to assist us with the program, but Michelle gratefully and graciously just filled in at the last minute. And she presented such great knowledge and information. And since then, we have built quite the friendship. So thank you so much, Michelle. I believe it was definitely ordained by the Lord. I would say that for sure.
I do. I agree with you.
One thing Michelle and I have in common is tiny homes. So I am someone who am very interested in living very minimally, right? And as a financial, I would say almost nerd myself, I like the idea of low cost, right? And savings. And so Michelle and I connect on many ways. And so with that, Michelle, we wanted to just bring you back this year and just discuss a few things as we get to know you more personally, right? How you became an entrepreneur, what are some of your desires, and even how COVID has impacted you. So our first question on today is, when did you decide to focus primarily on financial independence and health?
Well, that happened a long time ago. It was this older adult, male at that. And, he always talked about how we were as a people and, the things that we strive for. Like we went to school to dress to impress. So when you hear those types of things, you're like, oh my gosh. So some people, they just laugh it off like it's funny. But me, I was like, I don't want to be that person. I want to be able to be financially secure, and I want to, be able to show that you can handle your finances well. So, I knew back then I wanted to make that strive, but when you're young, you do things differently, or, you kind of get into the same route that you see and that you're taught. A lot of things we do is from what we see, not just what we're taught, but we see that in our households and our neighborhoods. So you tend to do what everybody else does. But I knew once you get a certain age, you're no longer a young adult, you're just an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have your stuff together. You have to start making the decisions to have your stuff together, because you are going to age. As long as you wake up, you're going to age, and you're going to get to that point where you want to be secure financially. And I think it has hit home. Now, I don't want to say I know it has hit home for everyone as a COVID-19. I'm not necessarily talking about people who are, exceptionally wealthy or exceptionally rich. We know that's a different category, but for the mass of us, we are in that position where this hit home for us in some type of way or another. It really has.
No, thank you for that. And I hear so many things as you were talking, right? You had someone that encouraged you along your journey to say, hey, you need to possibly live a little bit more independent financially. And I also hear some generational, I don't want to say curses, but some generational habits maybe that have been passed down. I think one thing that you mentioned is so critical in that when I was even coming up, right, this idea of savings and this idea of not living paycheck to paycheck was not a thing, right? Our forefathers and foremothers were taught that you just need to meet your bills. As long as you can pay your bills, that is the key. But generational wealth in the sense of transferring from generation to generation down the line was not a thing. But now we're actually seeing a shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where millennials and Gen Zs, they are saying, no, enough is enough. We want to save. We want to be more financially independent. But it also gives us encouragement, because even outside of the generational, the Gen Zs or the millennials, we're seeing people in all generations and all facets like yourself that's saying, hey, I may be a little bit seasoned, right? But I want my financial independence as well. And so to me, that gives those that are watching encouragement to know that it's never too late to start your journey, right? Never too late. You can start your independence financial journey at any point in time. You just have to have the mindset to be able to do it. So excellent. I'm excited to hear that for you, Michelle.
Yeah. And part of it is not just about, doing it when you're older. I set out when I was younger to get to this point. Have I made mistakes along the way? Absolutely. Do I still make mistakes today? Absolutely. Because I always talk about not, impulse buying or, unconscious buying. And, all transparency, I can think right now there are about 2 pairs of shoes in the closet that have not touched my feet. They're in my closet, but they haven't touched my feet.
Right.
They were for a purpose. So, they're there, but the events didn't come up or what have you. So, but they were nice. And I know they would go with this and all of that, but you still have to be conscious that you do that.
Yeah.
In order to correct it. You just can't say, oh, well, okay, that's the way it is. That phrase bothers me alone, really.
Yeah, that's the way it is. Exactly. We have to get out of this idea of norm and start setting the standard ourselves. I love that. So our next question is, what inspired you to start your own financial education business?
This all comes from me personally, my journey, my experience, and the things that I've learned along the way that I've been doing way before it was popular. Way before the market was so saturated with so many personal finance, I say experts, because once you get to the other side, to me, that makes you, the expert, especially if you're here today to show everyone that you did do it and you could do it and to help others do the same. But one of the things for me, or not say one of the things, but 2 of the things for me that got me on this road and really wanting to do this was I love teaching and I love empowering. So I found something that I could do both in. You get to teach and empower at the same time, because you can be in a classroom and get information, but you're not always empowered to do the work. You're not always empowered by what you hear. It's just something that you hear. Even if you're working with a client individually, if they take away just one thing that you teach them that they get to do continually, then you feel like your job is done. Of course, you want them to go the whole gamut. You want them to correct everything and fix everything and follow the program. But I've heard so many times over the years from different people that I have helped or worked with or had conversations with what they've done to improve their situation. So that's what really brings me joy. It really makes me happy when I hear back from someone, whether it's 2 years later, 3 years later, or a week later, that they've done something. As I mentioned to you before, presenting at another house of worship here in Atlanta, a young lady came to me about 2 years later. I was back at the church at another event. And she said to me, she said, I took your class about 2 years ago. I took your advice and I applied it. Everything from that moment, I was like giddy because she said she applied it. And that's the main thing. So she applied it. And then she said, now her house is in underwriting. So that's the highest accolade to me that I can receive, but you get to help someone. I taught, I obviously something came across that empowered her to do what was given, to take the information that was given and to move forward and take action on it. Because if you don't take action on anything, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. So that is one of the things. And, at the time, not a lot of well-known information was available when I first started thinking about this or wanted to do this. It was kind of hush hush. You had to know a friend of a friend or know a certain group of people to be in that know-how just to manage little day-to-day, transactions, I should say. And as you mentioned earlier about, generations past, I talk about that all the time. They had it down pat. Generations back then had maybe like 8 kids. That was like the norm. They managed to feed everyone, clothe everyone. Now, you may not have had those 2 pair of shoes in the closet that I have not touched my feet, but you had clothes, you had shoes, you had a place to live, and you have food to eat. And now everybody seems to go awry from that, and they make more money than most of those people made in their lifetimes. So with that breakdown going on, you need this extra help. So again, that information wasn't available, and you kind of go off what you see. And, as decades go on, we learn how to become more of consumers, I should say. We have to consume everything we see and everything that's thrown at us. You may not consume every single thing, but you still become that consumer. I want to give you a good example. Being on lockdown, I should say, through COVID, we've had access to so many things to look at online, and you get used to looking at YouTube or what have you. And there's so many organizing folks out there, and they, tell you how to do this and fix that and do that. So at one point, it seems I was watching, so much of that. And the next thing I know, I'm at the Dollar Tree trying to get this, to get that, to organize this one. I'm like, wait a minute, you have to pull, sometimes you have to pull back from the table or pull back from the thing. How many ways and how many buckets do I need to organize this thing? Let me just get something simple and be done with it. But it's almost like because you constantly hear it, you're constantly hearing this thing, you feel like you need to be doing this. Not a fear of missing out, but you feel like you need to be doing this. So I'm like, if you want to get on spending some more money or learning how to do something such as that, get on board with learning how to save. Keep listening to that, learning how to manage your paycheck. Keep listening to that. So, that is really how I got started and wanting to help people do that. And like I said, the information wasn't well known back then. Now everyone's talking about using envelopes to manage their cash on hand and stuff like that. I've been doing that since I was 18 years old. So we are talking about a minute ago. We're not talking about yesterday. So to me, that wasn't new. No one taught me. I didn't read anybody's book. Back then, there was no book to read. They just happened to be extra envelopes at my desk. And I needed something to like, wait a minute, let me put this money here. So when I get off from work, I don't spend it, and I need to use it for something else. So that's where that really comes from.
No, it's so exciting when you say that, because I was literally just watching you and the passion that exudes from you as you talk about teaching and educating people. I also find it very interesting because you hit on something a bit adjacent to your conversation, this resurgence of financially managing your money in certain ways, right? We've seen that since COVID. So to your point, prior to COVID, the information was there. People were doing it. But what I've seen as of recent, especially within the last year and a half, maybe, the trend of people wanting financial advice, people wanting financial education, to your point, has literally steeped upward. So we're seeing so many different gurus coming on YouTube and so many people popping up. Now, all of them, I'm not sure how credible they are, right? But we do know that there is a desire and a platform for that. And so as we reflect on the pandemic and everything that has happened over the last year, we're still in the thick of it, right? We're seeing some uptake. We're seeing, some hope on the horizon. But in essence, we are still in the thick of COVID. And so what is key financial advice that you have established for your personal goals during this time? And a second part to this question is, what financial advice during this time have you adjusted as a result of COVID-19?
Well, for myself personally, there's a couple of stories in there. I was going through a number of things in mind. One of the things I still tell people is to save. That doesn't change across the board, because what I think about, and that's for myself as well, you can do those things. No matter what situation you're in today, you can save something. I understand you may not have any income coming in at all, but you still have to have the thought in your mind to want to do it. So I still say save, because if you were 30 something and you started this at that time, and you're 50 something now, and you're in the middle of COVID and you're out of work, it's harder to get jobs with ageism. We know that is still, just like everything else that's still prevalent today, so is ageism. So if you're a person who was spending and just save was, an afterthought, I'll save later, I'll get there, where does that put you today? And where will that put you tomorrow? If you think about when 9/11 happened, and a lot of the companies, not just because of 9/11, but they had that whole debacle with Enron and all of the other companies, people lost their savings and had to start all over at 55, 60 years old. But you get that they lost their savings. That's one thing. But what about the people who didn't lose their savings, but maybe just lost their job? And maybe the people who didn't save at all, period. I mean, that's a terrible situation to be in. So I always say continue to save, because just think, if you had a year's worth of salary saved, being out of work for you wouldn't have hurt so much. And even if you're one of those who are able to keep your job and keep your earnings, keep your salary, just think how that makes you feel, how comfortable that you would feel, and that weight that would be off your mind that keeps you up at night and just makes you crazy, because you're thinking constantly, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to pay these bills? How am I going to feed my kids? How? I can't talk about saving enough, how that really can save your life. It really can. So for me, that's still important. As I said, I was thinking of a few things as you were speaking about that. One of the things is, and I talked about it, I believe because I do a blog on my website and I do the YouTube channel, so it's somewhere. I do a newsletter. I talked about going to the supermarket. We're in the middle of this pandemic. So because of the TP issue and everyone's trying to get that, you start feeling desperate about everything. So I found myself, it seemed like, I have family members I take, to the supermarket. We were going every week. And, you go into I felt like I was going to 3, 4, 5 stores. And I'm like, wait a minute. Go get some food and come back home. That's what you need to focus on. Instead of going to this store, and this store, the stores will still be there, and stop going every week. I understand people need to eat, but if you manage your shopping list and you manage your money, you would be able to say, we're going to go spend this amount of money this week. That's it. Or we're going every 2 weeks. That's it. One of the things I find it was helpful on, I'm not out as much. If you're worried about catching anything from anybody, you should stay out of the streets. So now you're not out as much. Then you're not spending as much because you're not running to every store. I was like, pick 2 stores and call it a day. So I had to tell myself that. And that's so the same way I talk to other people, trust me, I talk to me. So that's what I did. Get yourself. So I'm saving. So I'm not overspending on a food budget because I'm anxious, or you're trying to figure out what to do, or you're watching everything that goes by because you want to know what's going on and you're frantic. Cut all of that out so you can sit down, calm down, and think and find those ways to save. And again, even after COVID and after all that, if this hasn't taught us anything, I believe it had to teach us to do that. Be ready, be prepared. And to me, that's one of the best ways to be prepared, especially for retirement, for older people, and even for the millennials. If you save the money that you will probably be using on unconscious spending, you might have a year's worth of salary saved up, especially if you are living at home. So you're saving on the rent. You probably should pay something, but you're not paying as much as if you're on your own. But you would have that money. And I do want to answer another part of that question about, kind of what after pre-COVID, what would you advise and what did I advise before? I always talked about paying off your student loans because that's a debt you do not want to carry into retirement. First of all, you have finished a degree, you have the diploma, you've worked the job that you studied for, and now you're still paying for that? To me, that's ludicrous. You want to not have that into retirement. And the only thing I would change about it now is that I would tell people to temper it because some offering may be coming your way. See, I've paid off mine. So now everybody wants to give out help. Where's my $10,000, towards a student loan, payment. So, I would tell people to temper it now instead of throwing, more and everything at it, because you want to be able to take advantage of what's being offered. And if it can help you to, save toward a home, purchasing a home, or, you might need a new car. And if that helps you in that situation, that might be the only thing that I would kind of temper and change, post-COVID, even though we're still in the middle of it, but, after all of this debacle, but all of these things have come out of it where you're getting help for those things now. And that's the main thing I would change. Everything else I would leave the same. You still need to budget. You still need to save. So when you get, and you need to pay down your debt so you can have decent credit, because you need that to do just about anything. Mm-hmm. Go for a job interview, and I want to say maybe 9 times out of 10, someone will be checking your credit.
No, excellent. I was listening to you as you were talking, and so many things are running through my mind because you hit on so many great points. I definitely agree with the idea of saving. That is definitely one, because again, I know that traditionally the advice has been pay off debt, pay down debt, pay off debt, pay down debt. There's some financial gurus out here that say, you do the debt snowball method, or you do it in the reverse, or, all you need is about $1,000 of emergency fund. And then every single other dollar you're putting it towards that. And that could have worked, right, in a more secure economy. But to your point now, things have shifted. And I don't believe that anybody could have anticipated this, right? The significant amount of layoffs that we've seen, as well as the high increase in unemployment numbers, and they are still there, right? People are still trying to recover from that. People have lost their home in the midst of this thing. People cannot sustain themselves. They're not paying their bills. And then even with these stimulus checks that are to fuel, buying to keep our economy afloat, some people are just spending it frivolously, right, instead of saving it. And then now we find ourselves back into this cycle. I think at the top of COVID, and I commit I was one as well, I did not think that this was going to be still ongoing, right? I thought this was, okay, this is a few months, we'll have to just kind of course correct and figure it out. But this thing has been going on for over a year now. And we're still in the thick of it, right? We are seeing, something a little bit on the horizon where there is an uptick in, again, vaccinations and things like that, but we're still in the thick of it. And so this idea of saving and making sure that you're putting your money away versus trying to really focus on, paying down right now is key. So moving to our last and final question, Michelle, it's been so great talking to you. What is the best piece of financial management advice that you have found effective and relevant today?
The biggest thing for me for that is to stay consistent. Mm-hmm. You hear that across all arenas. It's not just about finance. It's not just about anything, but it's like, if you want to get anything out of life, you have to be consistent. You have to consistently do it. Like if you want to lose weight, you have to consistently work out. You have to consistently eat right. You have to consistently, you have to do that. So you have to be consistent with this. I remember a friend saying to me years ago, she was like, you're always on that spreadsheet, like I'm always, talking about, I got to go and check my spreadsheet, I got to do whatever. But that's how I was managing, the little coins that I was making at that time and trying to manage, the new lifestyle I had, because I moved to a place where, public transportation is far, kind of in between, and is not, that reliable. It's not going everywhere. So, that's a car payment now, car note. And now with a car note, you have car insurance, and then you have maintenance. You have all of those things. So, but you have to be consistent in that, because you never know what you may be missing if you don't look at it often enough, what you could have transposed a number, you could have added something twice, but you have to be consistent in doing it. So if you're going to budget. Don't budget today or this month and 2 months, and then 3 months later you're not budgeting, and then you pick it up again. How can you be consistent and see your trends, your progress, I should say? You want to see your progress, and you want to see what you could be doing better. You have to stay consistent. So it's not just about that. And like I just said, about saving, you have to be consistent. You can't save when, there's a little extra money, or I spent all I could, this weekend at the stores, and now I'm home, I have $5. No, you have to make it a point to say, I'm going to save X amount of dollars every month for the rest of my life. That's the way I look at it, because that's how you get to that year's worth of salary. That's how you get to that 3 to 6 months, how you get to 6 to 9 months. But realistically, as you said before, that year is very real, where someone can be out of work for a year. We're looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
So be consistent, and be consistent on not overspending. Sometimes people overspend, sometimes they don't, or, you try to do a little bit of it. If you're not paying attention to what you're doing, you're not paying attention to your budget and paying attention to your goals and what you have set forth, your SMART goals, all of those things, smart financial goals, I should say, you're going to lose something along the way. You will end up overspending. Maybe if I had checked my closet, I wouldn't have bought those 2 extra pair of shoes that have not touched my feet. But you have to be consistent in what you're doing. So do not overspend. You don't want to consistently overspend, and do stick to your financial goals. Be consistent about it. Like I said, you want to, have your whole, whether you have a folder or a workbook or whatever you use online. There's so many software and apps out there that you can use. If you can't use Excel, if you don't know how to budget, and if you don't know what to put where, I always teach people to do it manually, because one thing I know you're going to remember me saying this, that paper and pen never crashes. Mm-hmm. I never have to worry about if my flash drive was corrupted or my computer went down or this is all gone. You still have your paperwork to handle your budget. So you can't use that as an excuse any longer, because I'm the person who's going to take all those excuses away from you that you constantly bring up why you cannot, why you will not, and why you do not. So I'm always looking for that way. And that's when I talked about empowering and helping people get to that point, because sometimes we have to get out of our own way to be able to achieve those goals. And that's what I mean by being consistent. You have to consistently do it. And when I look back to where I was and where I am now, starting that whole journey, sometimes I can't believe I'm here. So, it is a good feeling that when you have those things in order, you can handle things, because, as you already know, I was restructured out of a day job in 2019, just before COVID. And I'd worked at that company for 19 years. So where do you go from there? Where do you pick up from there? What are you going to, do from there? But being consistent in the things that I knew I really wanted to accomplish, as I age and got older, and you want to do things that, have certain things by a certain time, I made sure I stayed consistent on that. And no matter what that looked like to other people, because I've been called cheap, and, it doesn't bother me. I kept my car for 16 years. But what that car did for me was allow me to pay off my student loans, allow me to not have to have a new car note every few years, and higher insurance, and the tax that you pay when you get your tag and all of that stuff. It allowed me to do that. So when it was time to purchase that vehicle, I could purchase it and pay it off early and be done with it. So you have to be consistent in what those goals are. And that would be my advice to anyone, everyone, all the time. Get that goal plan together, and then be consistent in taking charge of it. So that would be my biggest piece of advice that I would leave for anyone.
And I think it's an excellent piece of advice. I literally say that a lot, even to my teams at work. You have to be consistent, because without consistency, you can't see how your effort pays off, right, over time. And I think that's the thing. You can start something, but if you don't finish it, or if you're not consistent with it, you won't really see that. And I was smiling when you talked about the car note, because I am also, Michelle, considered very cheap. Okay, I am blessed, and God has blessed me tremendously, but I don't like to spend my money. Okay. I'm the type of person, I will reuse something. I will rewear something until it's worn out. Do you hear me? I don't want no cars. I don't need to be up to date with the latest fashions. No. I want to save and invest my money, right? So that eventually, when I do get to a place where I feel like my goals are met, then I can live that way.
Absolutely.
I totally understand that. But no, I think consistency is key. And it's hard, right? I think even in this season of COVID, it's hard to be consistent because there's so many ebbs and flows. You really don't know what's going to come today. You know, people are, again, still trying to figure out how to pay certain bills or how to get back on track with, their normal course of work or their jobs. And so it is quite a challenging time, but I truly believe that consistency doesn't mean this huge effort of, putting in the bank $500 every week or something, right? You're just saying small things. If you have it, save it. It could be $5 a week, or maybe not going to Starbucks. Listen, I'm guilty, right? Maybe not going to Starbucks every day, right? And give me your favorite iced chai tea latte, because girl, literally every day, that's what I'm going. Okay, I need to help on that, right? That's my little moment of splurging, or whether it's, just taking something small, whether it's collecting change. It's those small efforts, right, that, as you said, over time, that consistency plays off. So thank you so much, Michelle. This has been absolutely tremendous. I thank you so much for always just being so willing to come over and be with us and share your wealth of knowledge with South Suburban Missionary Baptist Church. The ministry here is gratefully appreciative of all that you have said and done over time. And we look forward to having you back here again soon. So thank you so much, and we'll definitely be in touch very soon.
Yes. And I want to thank you all too. This team is awesome. I want everyone to hear this team is always awesome. I love being a part of their programs, and I thank you for inviting me to be back here for this year.
Of course. And before we go, we do want to share your information and promote your business. As I mentioned, that Michelle is the CEO and owner of AJM Financial. So if you want to share how we can reach you, Michelle, whether it's through social media or your website, that will be the time to do that now.
Yes, and that's and both of those areas are perfect, because I did start that YouTube channel. I talked about I was being consistent. I'm being consistent this year. It's AJM Financial Tuesday Talks with Mimi, and there you will find a plethora of videos that talk about all the things I talked about today and steps to get you there to be consistent. So you'll definitely be able to reach out to me there, and as well as my website, which is ajmfinancial.com. All the pages have, contact information on that. And there's blogs out there as well. You can still learn the same information. And some people are readers. So, you can go to the blog, you can go to the homepage. All the pages have the contact information if you would like to speak with me, set up an appointment, and so I can help you plant your money tree.
Well, thank you again, Michelle. We wish you an amazing, great rest of your month. And again, join us, everyone, as we continue to celebrate a recap of Financial Foundations. We wish you all the very best, Michelle, and we pray that God's blessings continue to just overtake you and your business. So thank you. We'll talk soon. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.